folks, Retro Knight here. It's been a while. Had a chance to add to the collection a bit. So decided to do some cleanup videos, show you guys what this stuff is all about. Everybody's got their own methods for cleanup. I like my methods. They seem to work out pretty well. And I even happened to find quite a little gem right here. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 for the Super Nintendo. Now, despite the price tag that you may see right here, I got this for quite a steal, not that, at one of my local pawn shops here in town. I was given quite a discount because this thing, to be honest, looks like crap. And it looks so bad, the pawn shop didn't even want me to mention their name. Like, seriously, they said don't. And I was like, really? And he's like, no, don't. And I was like, okay, fine. It's just here in town. So we're going to clean this up. We're going to do this in some sections here. I'm also going to show you a couple other cartridges that I picked up and how I clean different cartridges and what is required for cleaning of different cartridges. This is one of my Game Gear cartridges that I got. I think this one comes out to number 207. This is Chase HQ, done by Taito, or Tato, however you want to pronounce it. And this is the Cryon Conquest I picked up at the last convention that we went to. Nice, rare game done by Vic Tokai. The back looks phenomenal. And I'm just going to clean up the pins on the inside real quick. And then I'm also going to show off my Dragon Crystal Conquest here. This was a PAL region game for the Sega Master System. Quite an expansive, nice little game, actually. I love this game. They also released it for the Sega Game Gear. And but the Master System got a full release, but not in the States. It was Europe and Australia. I got this from Melbourne. Took me a while to get it in. Love this game. All right, folks, here we go. Let's start off with, the Game Gear game right here. It's one of my collections that I'm going for. I'm trying to go for a whole Game Gear set. I think I'm at 208 or 207. Out of 234 for the North American collection. And all you're going to need is a 3.8 millimeter security bit. This type of security bit, sometimes it's called a game bit. It's used for a lot of retro video game systems. Just take off the one screw in the back, set her aside. And it may help to have some nails. I like to just wedge my nail in there a little bit. You pop it on one edge and then slowly take it out. For those of you who have never seen the inside of a Game Gear game, if I can pry this thing out, there we go. That's all it is. It's just printed circuit on one side. And that's the entire chip right there. Now, as far as the cleaning process itself goes, Q-tips, moist cotton tips, those will work just fine. I just use some 90% IPA. Works pretty well. A couple of drops, really all you need. You can clean up the cartridge a little bit here and there. It needs it a little bit. They need some love too. See? Pretty nasty. Now, for those of you who've been to conventions, or you can go to their site, I am not sponsored yet. 1-up cards, they're great. I love them. It's got a fluid side and a dry side. Put the fluid on the fluid side, keep the dry side dry, and it basically acts as almost like a 2000 grit sandpaper. Probably higher rating than that. But either way, it's got a rough edge to it. But I've been using these things for years. They've never hurt any of my game cartridges. I've never had any problems. And you just use the dry side. Sparkles. Like Calais diamonds. I love it. After that, just simply put it back in. It only goes in one way. there on one side, and then it just snaps together. After that, all you got to do is just put it right back in. Now, 1UP does make a card, actually, that intentionally fits into small game cartridges, like Game Gear, Game Boy Color. It'll probably fit in a Game Boy Advance game, too. They're much smaller than this. I don't happen to have one on me, but they are much smaller than this, and they're designed for small cartridges. And that is Chase HQ right there. Great little game. I'm going to play this a bit more often. Maybe I'll do a run through on this. After that, we're going to go into the Cryon Conquest. Modern days, it's getting kind of expensive, actually, but it's a good game. If you like the Mega Man games, you're going to like this game. It plays a lot like Mega Man. It's a platformer, but you get all your powers at once, and then you can build them up as you explore the levels. It's pretty slick, actually. I really enjoy it. Now, for those of you who are cleaning old Nintendo cartridges, there's two variations. There's a 3-screw and a 5-screw. The 5-screw versions were generally made for the older games that came out 85, 86, and 87. And they use a standard small flat-tip screwdriver. But the 3-screw games use 3/8-inch security bit. Again, still pretty simple. Just take them all out. I find it personally easier to lay them down than to, try to take them all out individually and flip the whole thing upside down. I just always end up losing them. And I got enough crap down here that stuff gets lost real easy. I lift. Oh, there we go, from the back. And it's got tabs that exist on this side and this side that fold right in. Set it off to the side, and that's a Nintendo cartridge. You can actually tell that this is a real cartridge because each cartridge has its own code to it. For Cryon Conquest, it says NES FV-0 for the CHR. This is the character ROM, that's the program ROM. And BootGod and a couple of other websites do show what the codes are for each one of these, for each one of the old Nintendo games. So you can look them up, and this is how you can help verify that what you've got is a real chip. You've got this is a real game. This is not a recreation or a reproduction. This one actually looks pretty good, as you can see, but we're still going to clean it. I'll show you how I do it. Again, fluid side, dry side. Doesn't take much. The best part about the 1UP cards, I have found personally, is that for many cartridges, it works in NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, 32X, N64, probably a couple of others too. You don't actually even need to take the chip out of its case. I'm doing it for show purposes. I'm doing it for explanatory purposes. Don't over tighten the screws. All it takes is just a little bit of resistance. It's still plastic on the inside. You over tighten those screws, they're done for. They will break off, and good luck. But what I was explaining about, they fit right in. So if you don't happen to have a 3.8-inch security bit, just slide them right in and clean them like that. That's to dry the alcohol, not to blow the dust away. Don't blow in your cartridges. It's not actually good for them. Dragon Crystal, one of my favorite Game Gear games. But this time, it's on the Sega Master System. Like I said earlier, we did not get this one in the States. Sega Master System, they did theirs a little bit differently. They use a Phillips screwdriver. This one is a tiny bit big, but it'll work for what I need it for. And taking off the cartridge is actually just very simple lifting process. Their cartridges were, their chips were much smaller in their chipsets, but the whole system was designed very differently too. That's the not the resistor. That's the capacitor right there. It looks pretty good. Still got some fluid on this side, so we'll just clean this up real quick. Wouldn't call it. It's a the game itself is not a platformer. It's a top-down maze style game, and there's 30 levels to it. And the coolest part about it is that every time you load up the cartridge, it's randomized, so that way every time the whole thing is different. You encounter it's like this fantasy style where like magic and dragons and such like that, which works pretty well for a video game, for what it is, because you end up you kill monsters, you collect weapons. It's pretty easy to just pick up and play, and the new swords that you pick up do have names to them. The new armors that you pick up have names to them, but all the rest of the materials, like the books, the rings, the rods, rods, and scrolls that you pick up, they all have colors associated with them until you use them. Then once you use it, then every time you find like the red ring again, it'll be like a ring of ogre power, and it'll say it on your inventory. But until you use it, you don't know what it is. And every time, it's randomized, which is pretty cool, I always found. It grants for massive amounts of replayability. That's mostly the reason why I love this game. And I had it on my Game Gear. It's very nostalgic for me. I've actually only legit beaten the game twice, because it's ridiculous to beat. But it's pretty fun, and I love it. Here's our treasure. And let me tell you, she's a beaut. It's magnificently dirty. I have no idea how I'm going to... Again, 3/8" security bit for Super Nintendo games. Sometimes when you're taking apart these games, as you unscrew it, you'll hear this sound. As you unscrew it, if you hear that, I've always determined, personally, that probably means that this thing has either never been opened or hasn't been opened in a really long time. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I did. It's that screw settling into the plastic for all those years. I have not had a chance to open this. I have not even had a chance to put this in my system yet, because I didn't want to until I had a chance to clean it. And it just takes off right there. That is filthy. The inside's, no, never mind. I spoke too soon. Jeez. And for those of you who are looking what the inside of a Super Nintendo cartridge is, and I did look that up, that the SHVC, this makes this an authentic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4. One of the pins there looks pretty bad. Not sure if you guys can see that. Well, we're going to try it. First, I'll attempt for... I'll just use the toothpick. I'll use the Q-tip for first test here. Let's see how much we can do on this. I think it's still going to require a 1-up card. The front side came out beautifully. About as beautiful as I can expect, really, for a game that probably came out in, well, I'm probably going to say 1994. I'll do some research and I'll put it in the video as to when it came out here. Put some gameplay footage in there while I'm doing all this crap. Okay, I think that's about as much as we can do with that. Now, cleaning cartridges themselves, there's actually many different ways to do it. I enjoy using magic eraser foams. Those things are definitely about 2000 grit sandpaper. You do have to be careful. You can use some alcohol with it if you want to. Really only need a couple of drops. But it'll definitely get whole sections clean. But if you spend too much, I mean, look at that. Just look at that difference right there. You spend too much time doing it, you can take off the finish. That's never good. You got to watch where you drop your isopropyl alcohol too, because if it gets underneath that label, it will eat at the sticky that is made of the label. Now, normally, I actually like to keep how much I paid for games on them, but this one has 2 stickers. And no, I did not pay $30 for it. He was embarrassed to sell it to me for $30. I paid $20. Generally goes for about a $50 game nowadays, in decent condition. So I got it for a steal, in considering. And it's even taking off that marker right there, which is good. Like I said, just be liberal with the alcohol when it's next to the label, because you don't want that label to come up, because replacing labels is a giant pain. This is going to be a lot better than it was, but still not as clean as I want it to be. Now, as far as this goes, I've already got some. It's still a little bit wet here, a little bit moist. I might be able to just rub a bit on this. Just clean this off dry. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Nope, scraping my nail apparently seems to work a bit better here. You just got to be careful with it. A heck of a lot better than it was. All right. Maybe I can get some fluid side dry a sec. We'll see what we can do here. We'll see.
11 minutes later.
Alrighty. Hell of a lot cleaner than it was. And the front side is definitely much better. Between the two of them, I'm going to call it a success. Yeah! When putting back in a Super Nintendo cartridge, you, from the back side open, you face it away from you. Think. Or am I an idiot? Nope, I'm not an idiot. There we go. And then, like original Nintendo cartridges, it's got hooks right here that go in. And screws. They just drop right back in. Until you encounter some resistance. Just like NES cartridges, don't over tighten it. There's no need for that. You'll break off the plastic. And there we go. Got a much cleaner TMNT 4 for a lot better price. Here we go, folks. Let's try it out. If you don't have a Super Nintendo, I use my Super Retro Trio. A lot of good old games that can be found, and they're not necessarily cheap, but they are damn good games. Some are cheap, some are expensive. Depends on your style and what you like to play. Videos. Next time on our show, a map of Rhode Island, the size of Rhode Island. I'm Retro Knight. You guys take it easy.